You know, it'd be absolutely impossible to go through every single Northland jig and skew they have. However, I'll give you a rundown of some of my favorites. One, like the jig I'm fishing today, this current cutter jig, it makes an excellent jig for fishing plastics. It also makes an excellent jig for fishing live bait. It's got the little bait keeper on the back that holds your plastic tight, or also holds your live bait in place. Another jig that I fish quite often is the Slurp swim head jig. Now this works great on paddle tails or boot tails. It works on a lot of other plastics as well, as far as jerk shads, that sort of thing. But it's got a swim head design. You can see it's keeled, and so it swims really nice in the water column if you're just working baits back to the boat. It also falls really nice and heavy and sits almost upright on the bottom, so if you're jigging aggressively and popping like we're doing today, that'll sit upright. Again, fishes great with plastic and live bait. Moving on to the Fireball jig line. You know, Fireball jigs for Northland is a mainstay. I've been fishing Fireball jigs since I've been a kid, and they make a lot of different designs of Fireballs. Let's start with the original Fireball. Comes in several different sizes, lots of colors. What I like about it is it's got a short shank, but it's got a wide gap, so it's great for cold water conditions. It's a great live bait jig. It also has a little keeper on the back that you can put a stinger hook, so if you're fishing bigger live bait and they're kind of short biting you, you can always add that stinger on there. Moving on to the Fireball Spin. This has a little spinner. It adds a lot of flicker, a lot of flare, so if you're fishing in stained water, adds a little bit of vibration. Works great. I go to Canada all the time. I love fishing those jigs with spinners on there. A lot of stained tannic water, even river fishing, pitching it in slack water. It's a great jig. Adds a little bit more than just the Fireball. And then of course the stand-up Fireball jig. I fish that a lot. This is a great jig. It's going to sit really nice flat on the bottom. Again, live bait presentation, presenting that bait to the fish, so if the walleyes are feeding, they're picking up that jig off the bottom. I use it a lot for dragging. River fishermen love the stand-up for fishing slack water. It presents the bait very, very nicely. Then of course you have your standard roundhead jig. This again, you can fish a smaller plastic on it or live bait. You know, roundhead jigs aren't ideal for swimming them back to the boat. They've got kind of a perpendicular eye on them. They're more for bobber fishing or float fishing. They work great for fishing live bait like leeches, night crawlers, and even small plastics. You know, I think everybody who's fished a jig for walleye at one time or another has fished a roundhead jig. Northland makes a lot of different roundhead jigs with different jig sizes in them, and so check them out. You know, another standby if you're a walleye fisherman that this one's been in the Northland lineup for a long time is the Whistler jig. It's got a little spinner on it. This is a great jig for current. It is also a really good jig for pitching out there and just bringing it back to the boat. So whether you like using live bait or minnow profile baits as a trailer, this is a really, really fun jig. And I don't care if you go out west and fish walleyes all the way out east, you know, anywhere where there's walleyes in rivers, a Whistler jig is high on my list. So that's kind of the rundown of the jigs that I use on a day in, day out basis, especially for walleyes. You know, again, there's a lot of jigs that I can't cover in a short video, but if I were to just hand select, you know, 5 or 6 jigs, those would be on the top of my list. You're going to want to check them out at FishUSA.com.